You're such an asshole.
Was just surprised it's Friday. I'm like, oh, should we go do something? I'm like, oh, yeah. That's why I comb my hair. Hey, asshole, I'd appreciate your personal opinion on this. I know this isn't exactly your area of expertise, but I'd still value your thoughts. Both my parents are autistic. They're good people, but they struggle with recognizing and managing emotions in themselves and others. Isn't that just called being an asshole? I'm not being seriously. Look, I know there's autism and Asperger's and different mental disorders. I'm not questioning that, but man, everyone's a dick who has a mental disorder. There's no like really nice people who are on time and work extra. Everyone with a mental illness, they're really good at video games and avoiding work and being pricks to people. I think autistic people, they're not they're not aware. I'm gonna go with you on this one. You know them better. They can't manage their emotions. Sounds like an asshole to me. Until I was about 10 years old, they managed relatively well. They wanted to have a family and do it the right way. My father was a well-paid STEM guy. My mother left her job and raised me and my siblings. They had a small house in the suburbs and lived within their means. Unfortunately, there were some things that happened that overwhelmed them and led them to become dysfunctional. With the overwhelming things, they just happened. It overwhelmed them. Well, I don't know. I guess they better overwhelm the overwhelming and raise their fucking family. Everyone's got an excuse. You're right. That's bad. That happened to you. Get over it. Children's lives depend on it. I smell, not that you're making excuses. I smell excuses being made. And led them to become dysfunctional. This dysfunction in itself caused them more stress that led them to become more dysfunctional and became a feedback loop. Did anyone ever get in there and slap them silly? Deadly serious. Knock this fucking shit off or you won't have any family left. It's amazing what parents do when there's the threat of their children willingly leaving them. Then all of a sudden the bullshit ends. This, you know what? This would be a great question for Stefan Molyneux. I'd send it to good old Steffi. This got to the point where their behavior, frankly, bordered on being schizophrenic. I'm not a psychologist. I know that's legit. My parents were almost totally unaware that they had a problem, and both had a problem at the same time. Both came down with the disease. They were stricken by the disease. I don't think anyone told them that they did. As a kid, when I would try to discuss what I was experiencing with adults, they would either downplay or dismiss anything I said. To give a simple example, if I mentioned that we didn't have food in the house, they would either interpret what I was saying as something else, minimize it, or even normalize it. It was the only life I knew, and since no one except for a few kids said otherwise, I assumed it was all normal. When I tried rationalizing everything that was happening within that context, I developed a very distorted view of myself, the world around. Oh, yeah. No doubt about it, because it's not real. I'm glad you recognize that. That's great, man. I internalized everything, carried a lot of guilt, shame, and self-hatred. I kept these feelings with me throughout my 20s, and wasn't until the disease disrupted everything that I finally saw the truth of how bad things have been. Good for you, man. Sometimes it takes an event like that. Right now, I'm trying to understand why so many people didn't tell me these things weren't normal and presumably didn't tell my parents that they had a problem. When I asked people directly, they acknowledged that what I experienced was extreme, so I don't understand why no one spoke the truth when I was younger. I realize that you only have the information I've given in this letter, but would appreciate your thoughts on this. All right, then you got a second question. All right, I'm going to go to my notey notes. Here's what, this is why no one helped you. You're basically not their kid. And it's not that people don't want to help you, it's their hands are tied. And in two capacities. One, you can't tell other people's kids what to do. That's the parents. They get very protective and kind of rightfully so. Now, look, if I see a kid shooting windows out with the pellet gun in the neighborhood, I'd go grab him, drag him to his mom. This would be olden days. You drag him to his mom and say, hey, your kid's shooting windows with pellet guns. And back when fathers weren't pussies and mothers weren't self-sabotaging home destroyers, they weren't the divorce Olympiads they are now. There would have been a talkie. They would have assumed I'm the adult and I know what I'm talking about. They would have lectured their kid, and the kid would have been punished. Now, if I just grab the kid and drag him to the family, oh, child abuse, legal. So that's one thing. That's more discipline. But why people don't get involved? You're not their kid. It's not their responsibility, and they really can't. This is why I got Asshole Consulting and I got books. I can help you out over the internet. But what's some random guy supposed to do? Maybe hopefully you had family members like your uncle would grab your dad, say, "Hey, knock it off with this shit. What the fuck is wrong with you?" But we don't need families no more because we have government checks and EBT cards with chicken tendies in our armpits. Yay, Democrats. That should have been there. Maybe there'd be some grandparents that came on in. But if you're talking just people in general, their hands are tied. You might listen to them and they could say, "Hey, that's fucked up, kid." Maybe get you child protective services, maybe an intervention like that. But in terms of trying to help kids that aren't yours, the parents are going to get awfully territorial. People who may want to help you, like, well, the parents are going to get pissed off. I don't want that. So there's really, I'm sure. Well, yeah, I have tried to help younger people, giving them advice. I still get in trouble with their parents. I'm like, what? I'm not telling them to do drugs. I guess I have ran into the experience where the parents are like, "Don't you tell my child." Yeah, because you're doing such a fucking great job. And so when the parents are there and the parents are wrong, especially in your particular case, you go, "Well, kid, your parents are wrong. You got to go talk to child protector." That's about it. It's about it. Another reason is they got their own problems. This doesn't make it right, but all the people that could have helped you, they probably had their own problems in life going on at that moment in time. And it's weird, unless you're somebody's direct relative or someone very personal in their lives, people are kind of very solipsistic. They don't view other humans as human beings. Think about it. You're driving down the highway and you see a very bad car accident. You don't think, "Oh my God, people are dead or injured. That's horrible." You're kind of like, "Ha, ha, who fucked up?" It's not real. It's not happening to you. And so, there's this kid with a problem, whatever it might be. Like, "Yeah, I'm sorry for you, kid. I got my own problems." Because you're not really there. If that makes any sense. I would imagine people would have a little bit of heart for a kid and they would like to. And this leads me to the third one. It's like, not only do they have their own problems, how much can that person possibly do for you? Like, they see you, unless it's like a teacher or someone you see regularly. If it's just someone who observes your parents' unacceptable behavior, whether it be a checkout clerk or something else, what are they supposed to do? Unless you're there, which is really relegates it to a handful of people in a kid's life, which would be teachers, guidance counselors, maybe um, clergy members, babysitters, and family members. Not a lot of people that can help you. And they also have to see it happening. So your teachers don't see what's happening at home. They're at school. And so if someone sees it or you're crying out for help, the guy's on the way to catch a bus. The guy, "Oh, okay, kid, I guess." Go. I mean, really, I don't know what it was, but I keep coming up, talk to Child Protective Services. It isn't even like, "Let me give you some wisdom here, kid. And next week, tune in. We'll meet at this bus stop and I'll give you some more wisdom and advice." There's not the audience or the consistency of seeing someone who might be able to help you out. A lot of people would like to help out, I'm sure. No one likes to see a crying kid or a kid in pain. But usually because there's a social consequence or people just too busy with their own damn lives and you're not their kid, they really can't help out. Kids are kind of, they're protected. They're overprotected in one way, where your good Samaritan can't help anyone. Because there might be a law. Again, it would be good to grab the kid by his arm, grab his pellet gun, drag him to his old man. The kid's shooting windows. If you touch the kid, child assault or abuse or whatever, those days are over. So we don't, and that's good for the kid to get that discipline and put him going down the right path. Then you go up, you see the father's drunk and a piece of degenerate shit. And then you're like, okay. And he's threatening to kick your ass because you dragged his son in for shooting windows. I'm like, okay, now I probably do got to go get child protective services. But I'll be honest. Now, do I want to get embroiled in this mess? You know, it's kind of, I hate to say it, but it's not that I'm a misanthrope, but I just don't give a fuck anymore. Because it's kind of like, yeah, there's currently right now probably kid slaves in Africa somewhere. Am I going to worry about them too? I mean, yeah, I wish it wouldn't happen. But I have only so many fucks to give and only so much influence in the world around me. So that's probably why. The second issue that concerns me is having children of my own in the future. I'm not autistic myself, but it terrifies me to think that I might do something similar with my own kids. If my father had been a drunk by simply not drinking, I would have some assurance that I wouldn't be the same. The problem is that my parents wanted to try to be good parents. They were just unaware of their own problems. Yeah, I really wish I knew what they did. Don't tell me. I don't need to know. What smells of bullshit is they both came down with the exact same mental. They both were autistic. They weren't before, and now they are. And then they both became schizophrenic. Sounds like no one course corrected them. So I don't think it's genetic. Can you get, well, let's take a look. Can you be genetically tested for autism? No. Okay. So I don't know. Go check, talk to a therapist, get tested for autism, see if you actually might be autistic. This would be one of the rare instances. I would say, yeah, go talk to a therapist and see if you got something to worry about. But it's not genetic. My father had been a drunk. The problem is that my parents wanted to try to be good parents. They were just unaware of their own problems. I don't think anyone told them that they had a problem. It scares me to think that I myself might unknowingly have my own problems with no one telling me otherwise. Oh, you do? You definitely do have problems no one's told you about because they're being polite. It's Minnesota nice, don't you know? But you have some your parents didn't, and that's self-awareness. Look, you got out of that cultish-like environment known as your family, and you became self-aware. Like, this is wrong, this is bad. And you had independent thought. You are also, the fact you are concerned about it means you care more than the average American parent does about their own damn kids they already got now. People, well, why'd you get a vasectomy? It's like, because I care about my non-existent children more than the current set of parents who had children they really didn't care to raise, right? A lot of people say, you make a great father. I probably would. Yeah, I'd be perfectly honest. I would, because I'd actually give a shit about my kids. But I know my priority. I don't want kids. I like food. Thank you very much. I like sleep. So out of respect and care for non-existent children, got a vasectomy. You're kind of the same way. The fact you care and you're worried about this means you're going to be better than the average American parent. But don't take that as too much of a compliment. The average American parent gets divorced, outsources their kid to daycare, and then dad tucks his tail behind his legs. Yes, dear. And then they say, oh, hey, you might be trans. So you want to post that on social media so mommy gets some popularity points with her girlfriends? That's not your average American parent. It's not that bad, but you know what I mean. Yeah, if anything, that's an indication that you would be a much better parent. But you know what? You're right. There might be some things wrong with you. Go talk to someone. Go talk to a therapist. Ask your friends. Like, you need to talk to your guy friends. Like, hey, there's something that would preclude me from having kids. Like, is there some kind of blind spot I got? Be honest, because I want to drag a kid in here. But would I fuck it up somehow? So I do that. But yeah, the fact you are concerned about it means you are more concerned about your non-existent children than current day parents who are concerned about their already existing children. I would very much like your thoughts. I very much appreciate you and everything you do. Hope you have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Oh, then I sent the wrong link. I apologize for misspelling that. My mistake. And thank you for the extra money. Yeah, man. Look, I'm not an expert on parenting, but the fact you give a fuck and you're willing to admit that there's a concern, that's more love and care consideration for kids that you don't even have yet. And then I'd really take the rose-colored glasses off and say, hey, were my parents really mentally ill? Or they were just assholes? Were they just fuck ups? And pressure got to them. And then they became even more assholes. That's what I want to know. But no, man, now you don't want to go the other way and dote on your fucking kids. You got to discipline them. But yeah, that's why you weren't helped. But I also think that's why you'd be a good kid, because you don't want to go through that same shit that you did when you were younger. All right. Link below. You guys were wondering how to be a good father. Well, I came up with a course. Cappy, you don't have kids. You goddamn right I don't. I'm still better than the vast majority of fathers in America. Had a course to help answer a lot of young guys and gals questions when I did like, okay, you got more than one problem, or you got such a big problem, there's other problems. I created a course called The Dad You Never Had. So if you didn't have a dad, this would be a great course to take. And by meaning not have a dad, I mean a dad who wasn't around, or he was around, but he just didn't raise you, teach you how to do taxes and shit. The Dad You Never Had, available on Teachable. Search The Dad You Never Had on Teachable. Maybe search Clary and you'll find it. And then hopefully you'll start making better decisions. Ken Rose, $5. He says, hello, Ken. Mazel $5. Because of what I went through as a child at home, at school with friends, I decided not to have children in an attempt to stop the infection. Oh yeah, I'm like, nope. The Clary line fucking ends here. There was more than typical come on baby light my fire divorce type of shit. I'm like, oh, this shit ain't happening. This is not gonna be, it ends here. It ain't going any further. There's enough innocence has been harmed. We're going to make sure this never ever repeats itself. We'll practice having children. Yes, we will, but there will be no children. All right, there you go. Questions, answers, asshole consulting. I'll see you guys later. Toodles.